Geek Vibes Live is rated G for geek.
Always takes a second to start recording.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Geek Vibes Live Review. I'm your host, Tia, and I have with me again Shawn Ventura from Lights Camera Pro. I'm really happy to have you on. It's been a while since we've done one of these reviews.
It has. It's been a little while that I've even done anything live or recorded over the internet. I've been doing lots of reviews by myself, so it's fun to do this today with you.
It's exciting when you get to do it, say yourself, just because you have complete freedom to say whatever you want, but then it kind of gets lonely every once in a while.
Yeah, you got to mix it up a little.
We tried to do, last I believe we did was the Halloween, the Hubie Halloween with Adam Sandler.
Okay.
And I originally suggested we do Mank, and I haven't watched it yet, but you apparently said that you could not get through it.
I could not watch it, and I've had that problem with a bunch of stuff. Like, I don't know what's going on, but my standards just keep getting higher and higher. Like, I did it with Wonder Woman 84. I was kind of excited to see it, and, a lot of people thought it was great, and I was like, this is awful. What is going on? And the Joker, I've been waiting to see the Joker for a couple years now because I wasn't going to see it in the theater. And I just thought it was an awful movie. And I did watch it all the way to the end because I know that Joaquin Phoenix got the Academy Award. So I was like, I got to watch this. And he was amazing. But I was like, why did they make that movie? Like, it was just awful. So I'm having a hard time making it through stuff.
I was agreeing with you with the Wonder Woman 1984, and then as soon as you said Joker, I was like, I can't agree with Shawn here, but I certainly understand where you're coming from with that. It wasn't for everyone, but yeah, Wonder Woman 1984 was a big disappointment, but I'm hoping that the show that we're reviewing today, which is The Flight Attendant, wasn't a disappointment.
Ah, that's interesting. I know you loved it. And I'm sure we're both going to give our 2 cents, but I loved elements of it. And there's a couple of things that I didn't like, and I can tell you now or later. But there are a couple of things I really didn't like about the show.
I think we should dive right in. The thing is that I was telling Shawn before we recorded, and if you've listened to them, great. Me and Joanne actually did a couple of reviews for previous episodes of The Flight Attendant. We never got to review the final 3 episodes, so I guess this kind of serves as that as well. More of a roundabout way of the first season. But I'd actually love to know what the elements that you disliked were.
Well, as a whole, I enjoyed the series, and there were a couple of characters that I really liked, and one of them was her friend who was the lawyer, Annie, who is the actress from Girls. And I thought that Zosia Mamet is her name, David Mamet's daughter. So I did like her a lot, and she was just kind of kind of full of herself lawyer in the beginning, and she totally evolved. And I did like Kaley Cuoco. I liked seeing her. Is that how you pronounce it? Cuoco? Is it Cuoco or?
I've always said Cuoco, so
okay.
We're on the same wavelength there.
I did not like her on The Big Bang Theory. I love all those guys. They're super hilarious, and I realized she was like the straight person or whatever. But that show makes me laugh so hard. But I didn't like her character on that show, but I loved everybody else. And it is so good to see her in a different role because she can act. And it's really cool to see her act. As a whole, the broken character and that she was so broken and she couldn't evolve. And I know towards the end, and we'll talk about this, she does get better. But she was just so broken for so long. It was like, come on, lady, get it together. But I did like different elements. But the one thing that really bothered me about the show, and I just couldn't get over it, was the dead guy Alex in her head. Every time they go to the dead guy Alex in her head, I'd be like, oh God, do I have to watch this? It just was a device, or, the voice in her head. And then at one point she said, I think I'm falling in love with you. And it was like, what is going on? Come on, please. And I wanted to compare for you, Tia, and for everybody listening out there, I wanted to compare it to the show I'm watching. And I hope that I, by myself or both of us, could review someday. It's a show called The Outsider. And it's just,
I love The Outsider.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like figuring out that I like dark stuff, and this show is very dark, right? Mm-hmm. The Flight Attendant is very dark. There's some really dark stuff that happens in here, and it's not for everybody. But The Outsider is even darker, and then this supernatural thing comes in, and it's like, what? Whoa, and it just blows your mind. There wasn't any moment during the show that blew my mind. Do you know what I mean? Like, Stranger Things, there were a few times that it blew my mind. Like, there was things that I've watched in the last few years that I was like, oh, wow, that's real. In The Mandalorian. Just how do I like this show so much? It's a little green guy and a guy in a helmet. Like, why do I like this so much? So that, for me, was the major thing, was that plot device where they go to the room and he's talking to her and he's already dead. Really bothered me. And then just as a whole, the show was so well done, and Kaley Cuoco is the executive producer, but I didn't love it. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with Ratched. Like, Ratched, we did a review of the first season. It's an amazing show. So this is an amazing show in a similar way. But Ratched just had too much gratuitous violence, and it was way over the top. And it was like, come on, do we really need to do this? And for me, with this show, it was the scenes where we go and talk to Alex, the dead guy. I didn't appreciate those. So what did you feel about it? Because I know you loved it.
So I loved the series, and I actually watched The Big Bang Theory for quite a while before. It was one of those shows that I watched with my parents anytime it came on. So when I lived at home, I watched it a lot more. And then when I moved out, I didn't necessarily watch cable TV like that. But I was excited to see her in The Flight Attendant because I wanted her to break away from that stereotype of what she was in The Big Bang Theory. And I thought she did a very good job. I know from the trailers that she was obviously supposed to be an alcoholic, but I didn't realize to the extent of alcoholism.
Right.
I was like, how are you alive? But I will agree with you that the scenes where she speaks to Alex got a little too much. I didn't mind it at first, but there were times where it was just too much. And it's going to be interesting because I don't know if you know this, Shawn, but the show's actually picked up for a second season. It was meant to be. Yeah, it was meant to be a limited time series, and then I guess because of the success, they gave it a second season. So it'll be interesting if he's still in her head or if we can finally see her thinking freely on her own. But yeah, that line that she said where I think I'm falling in love with you, I'm like, he's dead. He's in your head.
Right.
Yeah.
And every character in every show or every movie, right, has this arc, and they go through a journey, and at the end they're different, right? And that happened to Kaley in this show, but it happened like in the last episode. It was like she was broken, wouldn't listen to anybody else, was almost like annoying and whining in the middle of the show. It's like, lady, you're going to die. Stop. But it just all sort of wrapped up too easily in the end. But I am like you. I will watch the second season because I would like to see a season of her not being an alcoholic. You know what I mean? Like the alcoholic thing, it sometimes was almost too much. It was like, it was just a lot. For her to be such a drunk and consistently over several episodes.
Yeah, and we'll talk about definitely in a moment, but I wanted to ask you a question that Joanne and I, when we did our reviews for the first 5 episodes, I believe, where we asked ourselves, was there any point where you believed, and the main character's name is Cassie, so was there any moment where you believed Cassie did kill Alex?
There was a moment where I believe that the Rosie Perez character, and I forget her name.
Megan.
Yeah, I should have that IMDb thing up here, but I don't.
It's okay.
Megan, I believe that she went into her room, or no, it was Miranda. Is it Miranda, the spy who's a killer?
Yes.
Okay. So Miranda went into her room and she was looking for stuff. And I think she even went in there to kill her, but she had just left. And she found 2 passports in a drawer. And I was like, oh, Cassie's a spy. I was like, why does she have 2 passports? Like, even if you're a flight attendant, you don't have 2 passports. If you have a bad passport, you throw it away. You don't want anybody else to get it and manipulate it so it looks like a real passport. So at one point, I don't know if you remember that happening, I did think, oh, she's a spy, and maybe she did kill Alex, and this is the twist of the show, that she's acting like not a spy, that she's just this broken alcoholic woman who's in the middle of this murder, but she's actually the person who killed him. So I did think that at one point.
I did think that it was a little suspicious, and they never really touched back on that. And I believe it was because we have the 2 FBI agents, and I forget their names now. I believe the guy's last name was Van White or something like that.
Yeah.
But he says to his partner, they talk about how flight attendants are likely to be spies because of how freely they can travel. So them saying that, I thought that was supposed to be laying a foundation, and it would have been, I mean, we'll talk about in a second, because I did like the actual twist that they did of who the real killer of Alex was, but I thought that would have been really interesting for us as an audience, that we're watching Cassie, we're rooting for her, we're feeling bad because she's mixed up in this whole thing, and for then it to turn out like, no, she is an actual killer. It would have been interesting. And the one thing I will say about her character, and I did say this on other reviews of mine as well, where I said that she was a little too involved. I get it that she was obviously suspected of murdering someone, and of course, if you're not guilty of that, you're going to want to do anything you can to be proven innocent. But the fact that she broke into Alex's place of work, she was putting herself purposely in dangerous situations, she was endangering the people around her. How did you feel about that? Because, I mean, I felt bad for Annie having to put herself on the line. And even at the moment when she brought her fellow flight attendant Shane to the wake, I thought, well, that could put him in trouble too, because he was seen with you. So what did you feel about her just like overzealousness in proving herself innocent?
Yes, and we're kind of getting to the point that I was getting to before, is that this is a better show if she's a spy.
Yeah.
I don't care about the fact that, her dad was a drunk and he kind of made fun of the brother and made her drink beer at a young age and made her kill animals at a young, all that stuff is messed up, but it was like enough already with the rabbits and all these things. It was better. It would have been better for me if she was a spy, because a woman who's accused of murder and the FBI talks to you, you don't go to someone's apartment and convince the doorman to let you in, and you break into his house and look for documents or look for hard drives or whatever. And yes, she was putting people in danger by going to the funeral with the friend and all that it was kind of ridiculous. And what doorman's going to let you in? Like, oh, I'm the sister's friend, or I'm the friend of Alex's sister, or what? Just let us into the apartment. No, this guy's dead. There's an investigation. There's no way he's letting her into the apartment. But that happened a few times in the series. Where I was like, oh, come on. Like, somebody was like lazy that day or didn't come into work when they were writing.
Yeah, I will say that the show is not without its faults, that it didn't say think of those things. I will say that, so obviously, I'm in New York, and it's funny seeing them talk about Westchester and Yonkers and everything, because that's where I live. So,
Right.
Really funny tidbit, the scene where Megan is with her son in a mall, and she exchanges that flash drive with that man. That's at a mall in White Plains, which I used to go to when I was like a teenager all the time. My other friend Kelly, who also watches the show, she saw the episode before me, and she's like, Tia, they're at the Galleria Mall. You know it when you see it. And as soon as I watch the episode, I'm like, yep, that's the Galleria Mall. So I just always love when shows kind of touch upon like where I live.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. And I think I told you I lived in Austining, just north of Yonkers, by Sing Sing Prison for about 5 years when I lived in New York. I moved to the suburbs before I moved down to Atlanta. And I think they were on the Metro North Railroad at one point, and I used to ride that every day. Yeah, that was the time where she saw Miranda, and everybody was like, no, there's nobody here, and Miranda just disappeared. Like, Miranda was trying to kill her on the train. She was going after her on the train. That was a train I used to take to work every day.
Miranda,
but let's just, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say also, that confused me because and that was something that my boyfriend and I were talking about. But then I think he kind of redacted it where he was like, oh, I think there are trains like that. But the fact that that was a double-decker train, I sat there and go, I've never seen a double-decker train before.
No, there is not a double-decker train on either the Long Island Railroad or the Metro North Railroad, but I don't remember there being a double-decker train. But maybe, yeah, I think at one point she
goes
walks
upstairs.
down. You're right. Yeah, she goes upstairs to get away from him, and maybe that was just like, okay, well, we need her to get away, and there's no way to get, if it's just a straight train, there's nowhere to hide. You just have to run through the other side. But let me just talk about Rosie Perez before we get into the details of
oh, please, yeah, definitely, because her character as well added for a really juicy second storyline in the show.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, I thought it was connected. So she was starting to look through documents, and she was calling people, and I was like, oh, she's betraying Cassie. She's setting up Cassie. She's a spy, and then all of a sudden it just became this weird thing where she was like selling secrets to the Korean government or something. And it was like, well, this is totally separate. And then they did come back around and have her say, I did a really bad thing. I implicated my husband and blah, blah, blah. And Cassie was like, well, you have no idea what my problems are. A hell of a lot worse than that. When they were talking in the hotel room.
I kind of thought that was a little funny. Like, yeah. Oh, I've done highly illegal stuff. So have I.
Yeah. So I don't know where you want to go from here. If you want to go episode by episode, if you want to just ask questions and we'll go back and forth, whatever you want to do. But
yeah, I just like the back and forth kind of format. I think you and I do pretty well with that. But I would love to talk about Rosie Perez's character for a moment because, first of all, I thought she did a fantastic job. She's a really good actress. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because her character has she's such a mom, right? She's such the mom in it, and she lives in this really nice house with her really nice husband, and they obviously do very well for each other financially, and they have their son. And I am wondering what caused her to want to get involved in this corporate espionage stuff. It has to be more than just, oh, the company doesn't treat my husband well, so I want to help kind of get back at them, or I'm just a bored wife and this is fun. I've never done anything like this before. I mean, there has to have been more of a reason unless she really is just that gullible.
Well, she does say at one point, I don't know what episode, or somewhere in the middle, she does say, the reason why I did it is because my life is boring, and it started out being exciting, and then I got in too deep. But you're right, she could have just been saying that. But yeah, why would you do that? Why would you? And I think that it's true. I think that most people have mundane lives, and this idea that someone would come up to you and be like, "I'll pay you a ton of money to just get some hard drive information from your husband's computer or laptop," would be exciting to some people. They might turn it down because they had a moral compass, but it's a little weird that she would betray her, because it's not just like her going to work and getting secrets. It's like she's doing it through her husband,
And he
and
doesn't
he looks
know
guilty.
either.
Yeah, and that's Anthony Michael Hall, right? From
That's what I thought it was.
Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink. Yeah.
That's what I thought it was, but if you go to the IMDb, it has someone else completely listed under him, like someone who looks like him. I could be wrong. Maybe the IMDb is wrong, but I tried looking. I was like, oh, that's that guy. And then I looked, and it's not that guy. So it's just someone that looks a lot like him, because as soon as I saw him, that's exactly who I thought it was. Her husband, though, they're all just a little too gullible, because there's at some point in it where he comes home and he tells Megan, he says, hey, honey, the computer's acting a little funky. I think there may be a virus on it. And she's like, oh, well, our son was watching porn. And right. He's like, oh, ha, 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 okay. Or then she says, well, if it wasn't him, then it had to have been someone else, aka you. And he's like, ha, ha, ha. And he kind of like laughs it off. And then that also goes into the hand of her saying that she needs his laptop to go on eBay. And I think to myself, if you're working somewhere that clearly deals in secrets that the Korean government or any government's going to want, why would you allow your wife to look on your work computer? We'd be like, honey, we have 1 million computers in the house. You have a phone. Why aren't you just going on eBay there?
Exactly. Yeah.
We don't live in the early 2000s where every family only had one house.
Didn't he seem guilty? He was like, oh, okay, I'll get right on that. Like he had looked at porn on the...
Oh, yeah, I mean? Like, I don't doubt that.
But you're right about this guy. I'm looking at him in the cast, and this is totally off topic, but his name is Terry Serpico, and I could have sworn that I read somewhere that was Anthony Michael Hall, and he also played on Yellowstone as a bad guy, this series on Paramount with Kevin Costner, and I was like, I've seen him before. I thought that was Anthony Michael Hall. It is not him.
No, it's not. He looks exactly like him. It's really
it's really weird.
The casting directors were like, man, we want Michael Hall, but we can't get him. So who else can we get?
$100.
Yeah. Yeah, Megan's story was certainly interesting, and I'll get into that in the season finale when we talk about that. But I did think that her story was going to connect to Cassie's, and it really kind of didn't. It was almost there to fool you into thinking it connected when it didn't at all. And I'm hoping that we see more from it in season 2, because now that they've confirmed there's a season 2, they can start thinking about how do we bring in all the loose ends that we created in season 1.
Well, you never know what happens in the writers' rooms, and I've interviewed some writers, and there's like 8 to 12 people in the room, and they're coming up with ideas, and this is a big budget show, so I'm sure they had, it's an HBO show. They had a lot of money. And I think somebody probably came up with the idea at some point, like, why don't we make her a spy? And no, that's not what we're doing this season. But now that it's being renewed, it's on the table, and I'm sure people have thought about it and talked about it. So,
yeah, we'll certainly
it's
see.
Totally possible next season.
I do hope so. I hope Rosie Perez comes back. I found that I liked all of the people in Cassie's lives, except I'll tell you who I didn't like at first. I understood where, say, the tensions were, and I understood where the animosity kind of was, and it got better, but maybe this is because I don't have siblings, but there were times where her brother kind of frustrated me.
Yes.
And I understood that she's an alcoholic, and that's frustrating as someone who, I'll admit this right now, that there was alcoholics in my family. So I know how hard that is. And I know that, as we saw from flashbacks, that the father was not kind to Davy at all. But I hated that he took it out on her. That's your sister. She needs help. And you're, first of all, embarrassing her in the middle of a restaurant. That does not help her recovery at all. You're making it very obvious that you don't trust her with your daughters, and that can't feel good. I mean, all around, I just felt like he was taking his frustrations out on her because the dad wasn't around anymore.
Yeah, it's very tricky, and I agree. I did not like him at first, and I did like him more as the season went on,
Yeah.
because he becomes more vulnerable, and he's like vulnerable, and he's like, I will come and take care of you. Let me know. I'll get on a plane. If it's bad, let me help you. But I will say, as a dad, having 3 kids who are older and about to go to college, but when they were younger, if somebody had a substance abuse problem or was an alcoholic, they are not going to be alone with my kids. You know what I mean? Like, so he has this thing where, and it also seemed like he was trying to, and his partner was a man, right? So I think that he was trying to, like, you know, the husband or the partner was like, hey, you know, why are you letting her around the kids or whatever? So he was probably, I bet, in that situation where, you know, a relative was maybe, you know, had some issues, and my wife was like, hey, I don't want him watching the kids, or, you know what I mean? So I've seen that. I know what that is. And it's kind of like he's in between the husband or partner and her. So he was trying to do that. But yeah, it was definitely kind of an overreaction. But if you know the history of their relationship, then it's not that huge of an overreaction, in my opinion.
If I agree with you, at the time as I was watching it, I don't think we knew the full scope of their relationship. So,
right, we did not, no.
So from my perspective at the moment, I was saying to myself, okay, yes. And it's like, I'm not a mom. I don't have siblings. So I'm talking from a place where I don't know, but it, to me, in my part of my head goes, they are just toys, but I do understand trying to teach your kids discipline, trying to teach them the word no. I understand that, but you could have pulled your sister aside. You could have talked to her one-on-one instead of kind of making the spectacle that he made. But then obviously we get more context and we understand a little more. And I did like Davey as he went on. We see at some point Cassie gets arrested and she calls Davey, and it's this, first of all, this wonderful moment. I know it's sad, but it is wonderful because her finally realizing that all of the memories she had of her father were so altered and it wasn't great like she thought it was. And she's so sorry about what happened to Davey. And Davey then finally kind of showing he's a big brother. And no matter what, if she's really in trouble, he'll come and go get her. So I like that. I did like that a lot.
And I really like that about the show. I liked everybody has their own reality, right? So there's 6 people in a room, and you know, I don't know the scenario, like something explodes, and everybody has a different story. So she has a different memory of her family life than the brother, and she just totally, completely didn't know how bad the brother was treated, and that she was part of it, because all she wanted to do was please her dad. And the brother is like, yeah, I don't blame you. It was our dad. But in some ways, I think he did blame her a little bit because she went along with him and didn't ever stick up for him.
Yeah, and you could see that at first he saw her and, you know, that she was an alcoholic just like the father. She was undermining his feelings, and to him that was bringing back probably a lot of memories. And you have to remember that the father, you know, died when they were younger. We find out how and why. Then he becomes essentially the man of the house, and he's supposed to be, you know, being the big brother. And how is that really possible when Cassie has had all these years of the father pretty much teaching her how to put down Davey and undermine him? So it's like, I understand there's so much there. And you can see that Davey was waiting for Cassie to finally come to the realization, because as soon as she did, then he wants to forgive her. And he says the thing that they both need to hear, that, you know, I love that line where she was like, Dad wasn't good to you. And he's like, Dad wasn't good to you either. Because, come on, what father starts your daughter drinking at such an early age? It doesn't matter that it's just beer. That's terrible.
Right. Yeah. And we haven't really talked about the 3 characters. I know that Buckley comes in later,
Oh yeah, no, don't worry, I'm getting there.
Okay, yeah, but Victor and Miranda are two very
Yes.
large characters, and Victor's pretty scary.
Victor was scary, right?
Yeah.
And you've seen the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, right? We've talked
Yes.
about. So remember in The Dark Knight, I'm assuming he was supposed to be a Russian mobster that
Hmm.
about his dogs and everything. That's him. That's
Yeah.
the
No,
same
I've seen him
actor.
before, definitely. He always plays the scary gangster for sure. He's been on some
He,
Law and Orders too.
I think I saw that in his filmography. He does well at it. Yeah, Victor was certainly scary, and I liked how scary he was because he was playful. And I like the dynamic between him and Miranda because we're given Miranda, she's, obviously this spy assassin woman who's very frightening. She carries switchblade knives with her everywhere, and she is trying to constantly track down Cassie and all that. We're so scared of Miranda, right?
Yeah.
But then to see her kind of being undermined by Victor, and it brings almost this like human side to Miranda where
Yeah.
I eventually started really liking Miranda.
Yeah, you do. You end up liking Miranda when they're sort of fleeing together, but at first she is a cold-hearted killer
Yeah, very
and
cool.
she's afraid of Victor, like so he's like another level of cold.
Yeah, how bad is Victor that someone like Miranda is actually scared of him? What did you think about that whole storyline with Alex and finding out about the drugs and the mobster family? I mean, the show became so much. It went from being just a thing to suddenly being so many little things.
I have a theory, and this is not only on HBO shows, but in life, people that are super successful have some buried body somewhere. So I do think that this guy is like super rich and he's driving around. It's like, no, 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 you did not just build an electric car, buddy. You killed some people along the way, or your family did, is totally believable to me. And it might not just be murder. It might just be screwing people over or whatever. But I think you have to step on and climb over people to get to the top. And I just think that people who are way up top, and especially these people who are flying around on yachts and jets and stuff, there's some sketchy stuff going on.
So
So it
sketchy.
made sense to me.
He had a really nice apartment though. I kind of sat there and was like, "Ooh, what's he involved in?"
Yeah.
I kind of want to get involved in
Yeah,
it. No.
he's selling staples and push pins. No, he's doing some sketchy stuff.
He's doing some sketchy stuff. A lot of it became sketchy. I think I started to realize just how sketchy when Cassie agreed to go on that, say, private flight with the oh God, what are they called? The captain that was always trying to sleep with her.
Hmm.
And she gets on the plane and no one's on it. And I was like, okay, this is weird. But
Yeah.
then, and he wasn't even questioning it. So then you realize like, this guy is kind of scummy too, because he's just taking the paycheck. So you had like, which by the way, oh my God, could that guy not get the hint? I mean, he was trying to sleep with Cassie every 2 seconds, and she was giving up the biggest red flags of like, I do not want to sleep with you.
But hadn't they slept together before? But
They had
wasn't
slept
he
together like the previous year, I think,
okay? Because she went to his hotel room and then she was like dropping ice and spilling stuff, and she just left. So I had figured that they'd been together before. I just feel like Cassie, I keep wanting to say Kaley, uh, with her drinking and whatever, had a bunch of boyfriends or whatever. So, but yeah, the plane, and then it's all connected, and they're selling. What do they have? Weapons. They had rocket launchers that they were selling.
Yeah, which is so extreme. I mean, I expected drugs, and then suddenly we're talking about rocket launch. I'm like, oof, this is some bad stuff they're involved in.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was certainly interesting, the whole thing with that. Yeah, oh gosh, there's so much. Now that I'm like thinking about it, I was like, there is so much in this show right now. But yeah, Cassie's drinking definitely got the worst of her. And I'll just come out and let's talk about the Buckley thing, because with her drinking, she's obviously being told by Annie, which, by the way, I loved Annie this season. I had actually never watched Girls, so this was my first introduction to the actress, and I thought she did really well. They were a great compliment, I think, to each other, these best friends.
She's an incredible actress, and I don't know if you know who her dad is, David Mamet. He did a bunch of movies, and
Good afternoon. Would you like to try a free sample of our double fudge brownie?
Oh, sure. That's very good. I'll just take one more, just to be sure. Yep, still very good.
Some things never change, like never being able to take just one free sample. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Is that macadamia nut I taste? Let me take one more.
Sir?
Yeah, I thought so.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
he has made over 20 plays. I used to study him in college when I went to college for acting. He's very well-known playwright and screenwriter. But on Girls, she was great, but she wasn't the focus. It was Leah, I forget her last name, character. It's a great show. You should watch it. It's an amazing show. And Adam Driver, that's the first time you see him on that show, and he's one of my favorite actors. But
He's fantastic.
He's fantastic in everything he does. There's a movie called Patterson by Jim Jarmusch, and he plays a bus driver and a poet, and it's very simple, and it's just an amazing film. He is an incredible actor, and he used to be a Marine, and he was never even going to be an actor, and he just sort of worked his way in, and he's got a very different kind of face, and he's just very believable. Obviously, the Kylo Ren stuff I think it's great. Some people diss on those movies, but I think he did an amazing job.
I think he did an amazing job. I have my opinions about the movies, but I think he, in general, is amazing. If you ever get a chance to check out, he did this movie called The Report. It's on Amazon Prime, and I thought he did really well with it. Yeah, it was great.
I mean, he can do anything. He can do any character. And all right, we're going to talk about Buckley in a second.
I know, but when you talk about Adam Driver, you can't help it, right?
Saturday Night Live Undercover Boss skits, he did them twice, are absolutely hysterical, where Kylo Ren goes undercover at work and just acts like he's a janitor or something and sees how the other people on the Death Star are doing their thing. It is absolutely insane. Okay, so back to...
I have to check that out.
You have to check it on the internet. It's Saturday Night Live, Kylo Ren, Undercover Boss. But Buckley. So Buckley sort of paid off a little bit because I was like, what the hell is going on? This woman is being chased by the FBI and this woman assassin and these other guys who she doesn't know who it is, and she has time to get drunk and just sleep with this guy and have fun. Like, it just like this seemed like this weird little side story. But they got me because I did not expect this guy to be who he was.
Yeah. So at first when they show, it's really funny that in the show they kept making fun of him for his name. I actually didn't think it was that bad. Like, I didn't think anything of it. But then they kept saying, oh, what kind of name is Buckley? And I'm like, all right, it's not that bad. Like, I've heard worse names, but you're right. And I think that at first that was put in to kind of show how disoriented of a person Cassie is. That she's an alcoholic. She's literally being investigated for murder. She's being chased by all these assassins, and yet she makes the time to completely disassociate herself and to be, and this is not me. Like, I always feel like I have to stop myself because this is certainly not me slut shaming or anything,
right?
Because that's not it. But the fact that it's like she was so she was just not caring with, like, being promiscuous, when it's like, you don't know who's a spy, who could be out there for you, who could be, trying to trick you or something. I mean, you have to be on your guard at all points, and she just wasn't, especially with this Buckley guy. And of course, at first you're like, this guy's such a doof. You have
Yeah.
Alex, who was very suave, good looking. The Italian guy who ends up coming into play later on is a very charming man. You know, she has
Yes.
like these nice guys in her life. And then you have like Buckley, who is not a good influence on her because he kind of feeds into her addictions. And as you said, they got me with that. No, at
Right.
no point did I think that that was going to be the turn there. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to go to the Italians because there's a big turning point for her with the Italians that I'll go to in a second. But I will tell you that this happens with The Mandalorian and The Outsider, these other shows that I've been watching. Every episode, there's a moment where it's like, oh my God, how are they going to get out of this? And there was the moment with Cassie where she's like, she wiped up a couple drops of blood on the floor and then just left the hotel room and got on a plane and the dead guy was in the hotel room. Did she think that no one was going to find out? Like, how did that happen and how did she get out of that? And then she went to the FBI a few episodes later and she's just saying all the wrong answers and she won't shut up and she's telling them way too much. And I'm like, why are they not locking her up? She's obviously the person, she's involved, even if she was there, even if she didn't kill him. So there was a bunch of times during the series that they did really well. I was like, how is she going to get out of this? She is so messed up in a messed up situation, and there's no way she's getting out of this. She's going to jail or she's going to get killed. But moving on to the Italians, there was one point, and she went to get a gun with the Italian guy, the great-looking Italian guy, and went to the villa where Grandma lives to get Grandpa's gun.
Which was kind of cool.
Yeah,
Like,
the whole thing was cool, but there was this moment where she's talking to the grandmother, and I feel like it's the turning point of the series. I didn't write down. I have a lot of notes here, but I can't find it right now. What she said, but she said something, and I'm paraphrasing something like, you know, it's your life, and you have to live it, and you have to, you know, deal with the consequences of your life, and I feel like that's the point. She actually put all those nips that those little tiny bottles that she got from the airline, she'd always drink of vodka that she's totally stealing, and she put them on the wall there that they were talking at her and the grandma as if that's it. I'm done. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to quit drinking. Like that was the moment where she decided to quit drinking.
It was such a sweet moment, and I'm not saying that necessarily she needs to be with this Italian guy. Like, he served his purpose as being just a friend to her. But that, first of all, is showing her that you can have a male in your life, even if you say, because she definitely had romantic fun with him, but he still cared for her. It wasn't like he was just sexually objecting her. And and he was mature enough and kind enough that being around him, being around, you know, his family almost like pushed her in that direction. You don't need to be going to the club all the time. You don't need to be sleeping with these random strangers all the time.
You need to get your life together.
You need to get your life together. And it was such a beautiful moment that, like with the Buckley scenes, or even the Alex scenes, there were pauses in the story that felt sometimes out of place at moments, but this one moment was a pause, but didn't feel out of place. It felt like it was absolutely necessary for her. And I love that. And as someone who's been to Italy, of course, like just love seeing Italy again. It got me a little nostalgic. I was like, oh man, I want to go back.
Oh my God. It's my favorite country. I finally took my kids there in November 2018. I've been 4 or 5 times myself, and obviously I'm Italian, but I've been to France and Poland and Germany, and I just love Italy. Italy, I could live there, and I've talked to my girlfriend about it. We might retire there and just have a simple life, because that's what you do there. You just have this simple life. It's not filled with all the craziness that comes with America. But yeah, it's a beautiful place. But as far as this sounds horrible, and I know we're not doing any spoilers, but the Italian guy dies, right? Am I remembering this correctly? He gets shot or something?
Well, first of all, we can spoilers since the show has been out for a while. But no, he doesn't die. They show
Okay.
him giving like the thumbs up at the end. I was really worried
Okay.
too. It was like, oh my God, no.
Okay, yeah. Don't kill that guy. The one
That's the
nice
best
guy
guy.
in the whole series. Let him
Yeah.
live.
Let him live, please. He's just trying to help Cassie, saying, he's trying to help a friend, and
And he has
all of a
great
sudden,
hair. Yeah, just don't
he has
let him die.
fantastic hair. I was like, wow, this is great. But yeah, no, I was really scared that he was going to die in that moment. So thank God he lived. But yeah, so it was just crazy, the whole Buckley thing. That you have this like goofball guy who you wouldn't think anything of, and he really forces her to descend pretty much into madness. I mean, that whole stealing that pony thing, I'm like, Cassie, you are literally being investigated by the FBI for murder. Your best friend pretty much told you to take a hike because of what happened with her boyfriend, and now you're getting drunk in the middle of the day stealing one of those electronic kid things. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is wrong with you? And of course, that's when we find out about the truth about her dad, which is a really dark thing. And the fact that she's never told anyone, I feel as if season 2 definitely needs to be her and Davey sitting down, having a little heart-to-heart, and her being like, listen, I need to tell you this, because that's still a secret she's holding on her shoulders. So that's crazy. But yeah, when all of a sudden it's revealed, no, Buckley's the murderer, Buckley's the crazy person, Buckley's been chasing her everywhere, and he has a British accent. That I was like, oh shit. But I don't know if you caught this. He lives too at the end. Like, they didn't even kill him off. He lives. That's gonna be crazy. But the oh shit moment to me in that moment was Shane. I did not see that coming when he gets shot and you see Shane, the other flight attendant, and I'm like, wait, why does he have a gun? What is happening right now?
Well, that's the whole thing. Shane, are we going to find out that everybody's a spy? Because Shane just shows up in his workout outfit, the other flight attendant, and he jumps on. Do you want to break down the scene? This is the last scene in the series.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the whole thing, you get a gun, you know this guy is coming. Why don't you have the gun on you? Like, Cassie does a little fight with Buckley in the hotel room over the gun, and it's like, where's the gun? You went all the way out like a half an hour outside the city to get the gun, and you don't even have it. It's like in your purse. Like, you're not ready for this guy. This guy's coming to kill you. You know he's coming. So that was weird. And then all these other people, like you said, came in. The Italian guy came in, and Shane came in out of nowhere. Is Shane a spy? We don't know.
He's part of the CIA. He says
that's right. He does say that. You're right.
Because he's investigating Megan for the corporate espionage. So he's been really there keeping an eye on Megan. His focus isn't even on Cassie, but I guess he's catching wind or something like that of what was happening. So he comes in, and I did not expect that at all. That was such a crazy twist to me. I mean, I liked it. I actually liked it because I thought Shane was a cool side character. And that was just like, whoa. So he's obviously trying to catch Megan, which is crazy because they're all supposed to be friends, which obviously now you kind of find out that really Megan is a part of Shane's work. And then we see it, and I want to also, I know I'm jumping here. I promise it'll make sense. But we see Megan on the run because finally the husband finds out, or at least he guesses, that Megan has been involved in some shit. And I have to tell you, I felt really bad for the husband in that scene where he's just like, honey, they found this shit on my computer and they think it's me. And she's like, oh, no, they can't. How could they think that? And he's just sitting there going, is this you? Did you cause this? And she doesn't even say anything. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is the worst thing ever. Like, this is worse than finding out anything else about your wife.
Right. But even worse than that for me was her telling the son. She didn't even tell him that she was leaving. She, like you said, she's going on the run. She's like, just tell your dad this, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I love you and I got to go. And it's like, what? You're not going to tell me that you're on the run and that people are after you? Because like he's not going to see his mom again, probably.
Yeah, I mean, at least for Cassie's thing, obviously she was investigated by the FBI, but once that was all cleared, then everything for her is cleared. But Megan actually did all this shit. And
yeah.
I mean, that's huge. Conspiring with another government.
She's going to jail, yeah.
That has to be like life in prison. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but that's life in prison, definitely. So that was really insane. Yeah. And I think she left money for her husband and her son. But I mean, that doesn't absolve the husband from being investigated either. So he's probably going to be investigated. The mother's on the run. That son's life is about to turn upside down right now.
Yep.
So that's really sad.
And the one thing we didn't talk about was there was this guy, I'm trying to look it up on IMDb, but it was Annie's boyfriend, her best friend, and he was kind of helping her do some investigations.
I have to ask you a question really quick.
Sure.
Did you ever watch The Office?
I did.
Okay, doesn't he look like B a little?
I didn't hear the name. You're saying the BK guy or whatever his name is?
BJ Novak, the one who always
Novak,
played.
yeah.
He looks a little like him.
He looks a little like him. Yeah, I had the same thought. He must be way down the end here because I'm not seeing him. But this guy was kind of Max. Yeah, so he was helping out. Yeah, he definitely has a BJ Novak thing, and his hair is just longer. But Max was helping her out, and they were cracking some codes and going into apartments and warehouses. And then he gets hit by a car, and that is a moment where Annie's just like, get away from me. I don't want to see you ever again. You hurt my boyfriend who I love. And Annie's like, what? So everybody's sort of pushing her away. The brother's pushing her away. She's like falling apart. And then once again, she just has such a strong bond with her. She's like, I'm sorry, you're my friend. It doesn't matter what you did.
Annie was such a great character, and I loved her relationship with Max because while Annie was so angry that Cassie's antics had caused Max to be injured, if you remember, the second Max woke up, he instantly was like, where's Cassie? Like, is Cassie okay? Right. Like him saying to Annie, this is your best friend. She's in trouble. And at this point, I think Annie didn't believe that there was a woman, Miranda, after Cassie. She thought that this was all part of Cassie's drunkenness. And then so when she finally sees Miranda, she finally realizes that it's all true. That's a huge part for Annie. Was a greatness. Annie's performance, to me, her best performance in the season was when she's in the hospital room and she gives her notice to that other girl from the law firm. Yeah. And she tells her, like, my name isn't Annie. It's oh God, I forgot how she said it's pronounced, but it's Armenian. And her pretty much saying, like, but I've always accepted people just calling me Annie, just like you've always accepted me just, calling you a different name. And we shouldn't accept people just calling us different things or saying we're different than who we actually are. And it was such a great little scene there. And I wonder what's going to happen to Annie now since she left the law firm. I mean, she too has a very nice apartment that she's going to need to pay for.
Yeah, she does. She's a great character. There's so many great characters, but I just want to say one thing. I do think, like, this is the perfect example, this end scene where why doesn't she have a gun? And, oh, Shane just jumped in. And, oh, the Italian guy's shot. Is he dead? I think I think of things in a very linear way. I love the show The Sopranos because it seemed like everything in that show could have really happened. Like, there were real events by real people, even though it was a story and a cast. It seemed like it was based in something. And this is like, and I think a lot of these shows, it's like, The worst thing you can do is make it like a typical scene where he walks in, shoots her, and she's dead. Like, you have to have twists. You have to have turns. You have to have unexpected things happen. And I think that's why I'm trying to explain it away myself. But I think that's why a lot of these things happen. Like, there's this whole part where Miranda kills one of the FBI agents, and there's like 4 or 5 people get killed in a row, and it's like, what was that? That was completely unnecessary. And there's all these dead people all over the city because Miranda's looking for Cassie. And Victor killed some people, or maybe Buckley killed some people. I don't know what happened, but a bunch of people got killed. But I think they just need to keep you guessing. That's the idea of these shows.
Yeah. Certainly I agree with you there. I really, they kind of glossed over that FBI agent getting killed. I do feel that. So they glossed over a few things, and I'm hoping that in season 2 they kind of polish things a little more, because things were a little wrapped up kind of nicely at the very end of the show, where Shane says to Cassie, oh, well, the CIA might call you, just letting you know. So that's letting us know that Cassie is going to be working perhaps for the CIA in season 2.
Yes, I do remember that.
Which maybe then that'll tie into the Megan thing, because then maybe her duty and job will be to track down Megan. I'm not sure.
Right. And I think it's very easy for them to just be like, okay, if you don't want to go to jail, work with us against the Korean government. It's very easy to just be like, okay, now you're a spy for us, or we're going to put you in jail. And she agrees with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I am interested in seeing all that happen. I'll ask you one last thing, Shawn.
Sure.
What did you, because we kind of glossed over it a little, what did you think about the reveal of Cassie's dad and how he died?
Cassie's dad and that whole, flashbacks with the dad, it just wasn't that bad to me. You know what I mean? Like, I've just seen so many more horrific stories, or read about or seen so many movies that are just so much more horrific. And it's like, really? I mean, I understand that he was giving a young girl beer, and that's awful. And he was sort of abusive towards his son, and he was a bad guy, but he wasn't like a serial killer. He wasn't this horrific person. And it just... I realized that she should be a little messed up because of it, but not as messed up as she was, in my opinion. So that she was in the car with her dad when he died, and she sort of ran away. It's like, oh, I'm seeing a rabbit. That's me. I'm vulnerable. I'm a young girl. I don't know. It was just kind of messy to me, and didn't really have it didn't really have a big part of the series for me. I didn't really focus on it too much. It was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I will say that I didn't expect for that to be the thing that was kind of her huge repressed memory, or her big secret as to who she was. In the sense that I was like, oh, that was it. It's not like okay. Did you ever watch, I know I ask this all the time, but did you ever watch Daredevil on Netflix?
No. I saw the Ben Affleck one. I haven't seen the one on Netflix.
Oh, it's so freaking good, Shawn.
I know, and it has one of my favorite actors, Vincent D'Onofrio, even though he's much heavier now.
Oh, he's a powerhouse in that. Like, you want to talk about A-list acting, his whole performance, especially season 3. He was fantastic in season 1, don't get me wrong, and he appeared a little in season 2, but season 3 was definitely his, like, tour de force performance. That just absolutely phenomenal. I can't really like spoil then like what I want to say.
Oh no, you can tell me. I don't know if I'm going to watch it, and B, there's just some Netflix shows like Jesse Jones or something. And I did watch The Punisher, and we both love that actor. I love that actor, John Bernthal. He's great as a bad guy.
He gets introduced in the second season of Daredevil. That's kind of why he got his own show. Originally, the Marvel world was just supposed to be Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. And then because John Bernthal's performance as Frank Castle was so powerful in season 2 of Daredevil, Netflix was like, all right, you get your own series.
Oh,
But
okay. I did enjoy Punisher, but the other ones, I honestly tried to watch an episode or two, and didn't grab me.
perfectly understandable. I was just going to say there's a character in Daredevil, Karen, who it's, you know, she's had a past as well. It's alluded to. And in the 3rd season, you find out that her big secret is she was a drunk when she was younger and was driving a car, and she had her younger brother in the car, and because she was drunk, she crashed and the brother died, but she lived. So to me, it's like, okay, I can understand like feeling immense guilt because you literally caused the car crash that killed your brother.
Right. Cassie wasn't driving the car. The dad
That's
was.
what I'm
It was
saying.
the dad's
Cassie
fault.
wasn't.
So why is she so messed up about it? Right. That's what I mean. Sure.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think that we came to that same conclusion. Her whole thing where she was like, well, I was his drinking buddy. I'm like, he made you his drinking buddy. That's not your fault. I don't know why he didn't have friends to drink with, why he had to drink with his like 11, 12-year-old daughter. But that sounds a lot more like his problem than yours. So yeah, it didn't hit, I think, the way that the show wanted that reveal to hit. Yeah. But was there anything that because I know that I was all over the place in this because I watched it as it was coming out, but was there anything that I didn't talk about that you wanted to touch upon?
I just thought of it, but the FBI agents, I really liked
their dynamic was great.
Yeah, the female FBI agent. She was a no bullshit kind of don't tell me how to do my job, and I thought she was going to be more involved, and she just sort of disappeared towards the last few episodes. But I did like her character. Yeah,
I will say I liked their dynamic with each other. I liked she has that line where she says to him, you know, you probably got here on a lacrosse scholarship. I'm, you know, and he doesn't say no, by the way.
Right, he doesn't.
He never says no.
Yeah.
And she's saying, you know, I'm an African-American woman. I'm a U.S. military veteran. I have like a master's degree in shit, but I probably couldn't get away with the ballsy sort of moves that you make without even thinking about it. And I was like, I like that. That, you know, you put him in his place a little, and I think he understood that. And again, he didn't say no about the lacrosse scholarship, but she was the one who was kind of always iffy about Cassie's involvement, whereas the guy really just kind of wanted to put the cuffs on her. And we see the female FBI agent helping with Annie once Annie comes to her with all her, you know, information. And then you would assume that you would then see the FBI agent say to Cassie at the end, sorry, you're free. We, you know, blah, 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 blah. But at the end, they just kind of explained it away. Like, oh, the FBI dropped everything. I'm like, really? That's it?
Well, there's always another season.
There's always another season. What do you hope for in season 2, Shawn?
I hope for less dead guy in her head. I hope for less drinking. And it would just be kind of fun for it to be like a spy series, like get Cassie involved in spying and Shane's already involved, and get Megan involved, and they could be like the 007 of the Friendly Skies. You know what I mean? They could be the flight attendant spies, and that would be kind of a funner thing. This sort of darkness stuff in there. I once again, they want to give you the unexpected, but I was just like, I enjoyed so many other parts of the show than the dad stuff and the dead guy in the head stuff. Yeah.
I'm hoping now that the murder is solved and everything was wrapped up in a bow, that we get no more dead guy in her head. Because I'll agree with you that those moments got a little too much for me. It seems as if she's sober now. She at least says to Annie that she's going to meetings and all that. So I'm hoping that we don't get a typical relapse scene. I hope for her and Annie to have a good relationship, to see Annie maybe even open up her own law firm. there has to be, I feel like, some sort of extension with Annie's story.
Yeah.
Because, Annie
or maybe Annie becomes a spy too. But yeah,
everyone
she
becomes a
be
spy.
well, she could be the lawyer part of the spies. Like, oh, do this, and the Justice Department won't bother you.
Yeah, that's true. I think that Annie works well when she kind of is doing law for the underbelly of the city, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, she was already set. Yeah, so for season 2 for me, I definitely echo what Shawn is saying here, and I hope to see more of Megan's story, and I'm just looking forward to what Cassie being involved in the CIA entails. Because we do see that she's pretty good at investigating. So, her and Shane will work closer together, and maybe we'll see Miranda again because Miranda's out there. And I don't know. I'm excited for it. Hopefully we'll see more Italian guy. He was great.
Yeah. And the Nana. Yeah. No, I mean, I think it has a really good possibility of season 2 being even better. How's that?
I agree. And I have to give such props to Kaley Cuoco for really just breaking out of the mold of what people probably thought she was in The Big Bang Theory. I thought she did a phenomenal job. The fact that she is EP of this show is just so great.
Yeah,
and I think that she's so great, and I hope they did and not that I hope, I'm sorry, that I want to say that, can you hear me there? Sorry. Yeah. My grandparents just started calling, and whenever I get a call in, it pauses or at least mutes me. There's been a lot of times where I'll be doing a podcast with Brittany, and if someone calls and she's like, "Can't hear you," and I'm like, "Damn it, Skype, what are you doing here?" But I just wanted to say that I felt that this show was casted really well, and I'm glad that we got to review it. What was I going to say? What else were you? Oh, first of all, your reviews for The Mandalorian are great.
Thank you.
Such a fantastic show, by the way. I cannot wait for season 3. It's so good.
It's so good. I mean, I'm going to be dorky here, but my girlfriend got me a bunch of Baby Yodas for Christmas. My kids are like, "Dad, you are like a 6-year-old boy. What are you doing?" And I'm like, "No, this is fun. Grogu's fun."
I have to send you a picture. My mom, for Christmas, got me a plush Grogu, and there's a makeup company called ColourPop, and they did an eyeshadow palette in conjunction with The Mandalorian, and it has Baby Yoda on it. So my mom got me that for Christmas as well. Awesome. So yes, I am so with you on the Grogu love here, and I would definitely love to do a review of The Outsider with you because I really enjoyed that series.
I'm not done. I'm on 6. I didn't realize there were 10 episodes, so I just finished 6 last night. So give me a week or so, and we'll text back and forth. I would love to do that with you because it sounds like you enjoyed it also.
Yeah, I'll have to. I feel like that's great because I'll go back and rewatch it just so that I'm refreshed because it's been a little while. But yeah, Shawn, I have really enjoyed reviewing The Flight Attendant with you. Please plug your work. Let everyone know where we can find you, what you have coming up.
Oh, geez. I have a podcast called the Lights Camera Pro podcast, and I interview entertainment pros about them working behind the scenes, directors, actors, producers, cinematographers. And that was so much fun for 6 months. But now I'm actually working on a true crime podcast. I've got 2 out of 3 episodes done that I'm going to launch with probably at the end of January. It's called True Crime Freaks. So I am going to do that now. I love the true crime documentaries, HBO shows, and podcasts. And so now I'm doing that also. And I still will be doing more reviews like this and interviews for the Lights Camera Pro podcast. So that's it. Yeah.
Shawn, you definitely have to send me when you launch your true crime podcast. I love true crime, which sounds bad to say. That sounds really bad to say, but I
definitely want to hear what you think about them. It's a lot of work. It's so much more work than doing something like this. It's each episode is at least 40 hours of work. It's a lot of research and a lot of editing and music and you're making it spooky and fun. So it's a ton of work, but I love it. I absolutely love it.
I can imagine. I did a review probably about half a year ago now with one of our associates, Chris. We reviewed the Netflix documentary, The Confession Killer, which is a pretty interesting case if you've not seen it. But yeah, which is so bad that I like watching those things and learning, but it's just so fascinating. So that's exciting.
It is.
I'll definitely check it out. Please, everyone who's listening, make sure that you check it out when Shawn launches. You said end of January, correct?
Probably, yeah. Definitely by the beginning of February, end of January, it'll be launched, yeah.
Awesome. And as for me, you can always find me at geek5snation.com. I'm on YouTube at Geek Vibes Podcast. We have the top 10s, my tea times with Tia. I just did a review for American Gods Season 3. I was given the first 4 episodes, and it's amazing, so make sure you check that out. And I have coming up my interview with director John Lee Brody, which has to be one of my favorite interviews that I've done, so make sure that you check that out as well at Geek Vibes Podcast. But Shawn, it's been amazing. I can't wait till we get back together to do another, which will probably be The Outsider, so I'm looking to it.
I look forward to it also, and you're amazing. You do so much stuff. You do all these podcasts and write for Geek Vibes. I don't know how you do it all, but it's amazing to watch, and I love listening to you guys' stuff and watching your podcasts.
Oh, thank you. Well, I have to let you know before we sign off that my mom loves when you and I review things together. So there you go.
That's perfect. All right. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Tia. We'll do it again soon. This was great. You have a great day.
You too. Bye.
All right. Thanks.